Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are talking about lesson 75, and as soon as I start recording, my dog starts whining, so I'm sorry about that. We're talking about lesson 75 today in the Saxon 3rd edition. This is a really important lesson. We're going to be talking today about writing the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. This is one that will follow you through Algebra 2, so this is a really important lesson. First things first, let's talk vocabulary. I'm sorry about my dog, oh my God. Vocabulary, intercept. That is where something crosses the axis. Well, we can just say the axis, but you can, so the x-intercept would be the x-axis, the y-intercept would be the y-axis, y-intercept. I'm sorry, my dog is distracting me. Okay. So we're going to talk about this first. So the equation, so make sure you write that down. The other thing we want to do is we're going to talk about the equation of a line. It is y equals mx plus b. Folks, this is your slope. Slope is your m, okay? Oh, it would help if I put that in the right spot. Slope is your m, your b is your y-intercept. Intercept. Don't write your y, because this is your y. That's your y. This is your y-intercept. Y-intercept. Okay, so when we have something in this form, we can immediately tell what our slope and our y-intercept is. Taking a look over here, this would match up where our b is, so our y-intercept is -5. -5, okay? Another way to determine intercept, if it's not in slope-intercept form, is by looking at the graph. So we have a graph here. Remember, this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. So if I were to ask where this intercepts on the y-axis, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It would be +4 because that's where it's crossing the y-axis. All right, so now let's talk about slope. We have two different types of slope. They are positive or negative. And if you ride a bike, the best way to think about this is you're coming in from this is your negative side, this is your positive side, right? So coming in from negative infinity, if you encounter a slope that looks like this, you're riding your bike, you come and you have to go uphill, that's a positive slope. Coming in from the negative side, if you encounter a slope like this, or you're riding your bike from, again, we always start at the negative side of our graph, and you have to go downhill, then it is a negative slope, Okay, so for these guys here, let me see if I can figure out how to let me move my face here for just a sec. Bam, there you go, small face, hi. Okay, special slopes over here. So these are positive, these are negative, a special slope, a zero slope. Remember the bike riding. If you're riding your bike on a slope like that, it's just flat ground. There is no slope involved there, so it's a zero slope. Now, if you have one that looks like this, that, I don't care who you are, unless maybe you're Spider-Man, you can't ride your bike on that. That is impossible to ride your bike on. Therefore, it is undefined. Worst possible thing in math, undefined, you can't have it. Zero slope and undefined slope, two very different things. Make sure that you are aware of that. All right, guys, so let's get into some of these examples. James, if you are watching this right now, you need to know your dog is chasing her shadow behind my chair right now. It's very cute. I'll show you guys. Bonus dog. Lupin, come here. Come here. Come here. She's very confused. Bonus dog time. Come on. Come on, over here. Come on. Oh. All right, bonus dog. Aw, so cute. Okay, so she's afraid of shadows. It's hilarious. All right, back on math. Let's talk math. All right, so finding the slope. Guys, in addition to writing down y equals mx plus b, you should have had that down. You need to write, so look, I even have it right here on the second page, so I didn't have to write it again. You need to write this down. This is called your slope formula. This is called your slope formula. You do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. There's a nice little pattern in there that I like to figure out that makes it a little bit easier. So let's look at this example here. What we do have is we want to find the slope of these. Now guys, your slope is it's always written as a ratio. And just a reminder, ratios are fractions. It is rise over run. Rise over run, write that down. This is slope formula, this is slope in general, rise over run. So the way we do this is we find 2 points and we make a triangle. Now, previously we learned that if you're riding your bike in and you go downhill, it's gonna be a negative slope, and that absolutely is true. What we're going to do now is we are going to rise up 3, 1, 2, 3, and we are going to run over in the negative direction, -2. Now keep in mind you can write your negatives like that, or you can write it like this, where you put it on top. You can even write it in the middle, but I almost never do that. So slope equals those two things, okay? Let's look at this one. This one we know is gonna be positive because we ride our bike in and it's gonna go up. And just a reminder, see, we knew this one was gonna be negative, so we did that. Let's draw a triangle here. We are going to rise down. I know that sounds really ridiculous, but that's the best way to do it. So we're gonna go down -2, and we're gonna run over 1, 2, 3, 4. -2 over 4. That reduces down to -1 over 2. Oh, wait, except we went in the negative direction. Negative divided by a negative, folks, is a positive. So this should be +1/2, +1/2 for our slope. Okay, now, previously we learned how to determine our y-intercept. That is where it crosses on the y-axis. Remember, this is our y, this is our x right over here, x, x. So our y-axis here, or our y-intercept here would be 1, 2, 3. So y-intercept equals 3. Our y-intercept over here is -2. So y-intercept equals -2. Guys, once we have the slope and the y-intercept, we can write the equation of the lines. Now find the equations. We're gonna go, remember our equation is y equals mx plus b, m is your slope, this is your y-intercept. So we come over here and I look at this first one and I say, okay, y equals, now our slope is negative, I like to put it on top, so -3 over 2, x plus our y-intercept, which we know is 3, so plus 3. Okay, so the one over here, let's do this. We've got y equals, and instead of m, I'm gonna put it in my slope, which we know is +1/2, x minus 2, because that's our y-intercept. So guys, these are the equations of those lines. Now, you don't always have to graph things in order to find the equations. Sometimes you can use this slope formula, and so we'll come back to that in a little bit, but make sure you've got that highlighted. Let's look at these guys. We're gonna graph these right here. So for this, we wanna start at our y-intercept of +2, so we go up 2. Now, our slope is -3 over 5, or it can be 3 over -5. Either one of those will work. Let's start with this first one. If we go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then in the positive direction, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. Bam. Beautiful. I'm reaching for my ruler here. All right, so then once you have 2 points, that makes a line, but you may want to do 3 points just to make your line nice and accurate. So I went down 3, +5. I did this one. Let's do this one. Go here, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right over there. So now what I can do is, I'm gonna turn this, sorry, while I graph this guy. So when I draw my line, I draw it all the way across like that. I always use a straight edge, hint, hint. And you can see I didn't use a straight edge to draw my graph, but I do for my lines because that gets complicated. And then you can graph it just like that. Okay, so and put little arrows on the ends. All right, so the next one, this one is a little tricky. You've been solving for y all along, so this should be helpful. But what we need to do is get this into that slope-intercept form. So I need to get this chunk with the y by itself, which means I need to move x over, -x minus x. If I do that, this cancels out and I get -2y equals, and I want to put the chunk with the x first, so -x plus 4. Now, keep in mind there's a 1 in front of here, right? A 1 in front of that guy. To get that x by itself, or to get that y by itself, I divide everything by -2. -2, -2. Cancel those guys out, I get y equals, a negative divided by negative is a positive, so it's going to be 1/2 x. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this is the equation that I'm going to be graphing. Again, we start with our -2 as our y-intercept right here. And we have a slope of, I'm just going to rewrite it over here, slope of 1/2. Now keep in mind, another way to write a positive slope is -1 over -2, right? When you're writing it in formulas, make sure you're doing the positive version, but in your head, when you're graphing it, do the -1 over -2. For example, I could go down 1 and then in the negative direction, 1, 2. Or I can start back up here and I could do the positive version, go up 1 over 2. And then if I keep doing that, up 1 over 2, like this, I will have my line. Again, we want to use a straight edge here. I did a terrible job of drawing my axes earlier. There we go. So we've got our straight edge here. We throw some arrows on the end of it like that. And that is the equation of your line. And that's the graph of the equation of your line that you've now found. Okay, guys. So Next part is the practice. And I realized I introduced this slope formula here. We're not going to actually talk about that during this lesson, but do write that down. We'll talk about that during the next lesson. So guys, the practice, if you don't have your book in front of you, this is the first one, A and B. This is the second one, C and D. I want you to find the equations of those lines. All right, so y equals, for this guy, we need to find our slope first. We draw our triangle like this, and we go down 1 and in the positive direction 2. So our slope is -1 over positive 2x. Our y-intercept is 1, 2, 3 plus 3. So the equation of B is going to be this guy right here. Now the equation of A, this one is a little trickier. This has no slope to it, so it's 0x, and then it crosses at -3, so -3, 0x minus 3. Guys, we can just write that easier. Get rid of that 0, because anything times 0 is 0, right? So just write that easier. Y equals -3, like this, okay? Now let's take a look at these guys here. Ignore my accidental mark there. All right, let's talk about D first. So D, we want to do y equals, and we need our slope. So here's a triangle here. Draw our triangle. You always want to draw your triangle between two good points, not like something like this would be like a halfway point. You don't want to do that because that's not precise. So for this, I'm going to go down 3. So -3 over in the negative direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. -6. So -1 over -3 over -6 is positive 1/2. So we have a positive 1/2 slope. And then we've thrown our x, and now our y-intercept here is going to be up 1, 2, 3 plus 3. All right, now for E, this is tricky. All you got, or not E, I'm sorry, for C. For C here, this one can be a little bit trickier, but the way that this works is it goes through our, remember this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis, this is going through our x-axis at positive 3. It is literally just x equals 3. This is that one that I told you, it doesn't have a 0 slope, it has an undefined slope. Like you can't even do that, right? So that would just be, since it goes through our x-axis at 3, you just write x equals 3. If it was over here at 5, you would write x equals 5. If it's over here at -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -6, then it would be x equals -6, a line going like that. All right, guys, that is the practice for those. The other practice is graphing this guy. So if you don't have your book, there's practice E, and then there's practice F. So pause the video, do those, and then come on back. All right, so on this guy, we're gonna do positive 2 is where we start. Then our slope is -2 over 3, so we're gonna go down 2, and in the positive direction, 3. Down 2, positive direction 3. Alternatively, what we could do is positive 2 over -3, because that equals the same thing. So we go up 2, and in the negative direction, 3. And when we get that, this is our line using a straight edge. Fold a piece of paper if you need to. Fold a piece of paper. All right, so let's throw some arrows on that. All right, now let's do this guy. So this one is not in slope-intercept form, so we're gonna have to change it. I wanna get this chunk with the y by itself, so I'm gonna -5 from both sides. This cancels out, and I get 3y equals x, because you always wanna put the chunk with the x first, -5. Divide this by 3. Divide this by 3, divide this by 3. Keep in mind that there's a 1 in front here. So these cancel out, and I get y equals 1/3 x minus. Now, you always want to leave your slope in improper fraction form, but 5/3, I'm not necessarily going to know how to graph that unless I turn that into 1 and 2/3. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 more is 5, so it's 1 and 2/3. So -1 and 2/3, we're going to go down 1, down almost 2, but we're going to be like right here. I missed the mark with my drawing. So it's going to be right here. And now we're going to go up 1. Our slope is up 1 and then over 3 in the positive direction. So we go up 1, which is going to be like right here. Let me move this down just a little bit more. Right there. And so there's up 1 and then over 1, 2, 3, like this. And then we go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, like this. So that one's a little bit trickier. All right, guys, and then you draw your line. Did I do that right? Make sure I did up 1 over 3. Yep, I did. Okay, so draw your line, throw your arrows on it, and you are good to go. Guys, if you have any questions about this lesson, please let me know. This is an important one. Otherwise, I'll see you in class. Thanks.